When I was speaking with Reverend Johnson about what gathering music she would like, she told me that she really loved Holly Near's song "I Am Willing." So I was honored and pleased to record this for her.
I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. What seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is a panic all across the nation, and there is wailing the whole world round. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. Would seem so strange, it would dishonor those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. It seems so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion, and give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. But I am open and I am willing for to be hopeless. Would seem so strange, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Universalist Society in Franklin. I'm Kathleen Ackerman, our worship associate this morning. I'm glad that we are together. We gather this morning for a very special service, which recognizes and celebrates Jennifer Johnson's call to ministry. and her preparedness to be ordained into that service. Jen, we have known you and companioned you through your journey with pride and joy, and we feel the power of this morning in great depth. In one sense, it is inevitable that you will carry us with you through your days. But this morning we guarantee it by joining with the First Parish Church in Chelmsford to formally ordain you into ministry. If any of you all are visiting with us this morning, we're especially glad that you're here for this special service. Welcome. Please take a moment to sign our virtual guest book. You will find the link in the chat room. There are also a few reminders about how we use Zoom during virtual services. They're on the screen right now. But please type a message in the chat box if you need help. And now let's join our hearts and minds together as we gather for worship.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Rita Capizzi, honored to serve the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Mankato, Minnesota. And I am so happy to be honoring with all of you today the ordination of a most beloved friend and companion, Jennifer Beth Johnson. Those of us in the northern United States the fact that the seasons are turning. The leaves everywhere around us declare that gradual and familiar movement from one season to another. Leaves of oak, maple, walnut, ash, and more flare in new colors and drop to the ground, turning as they drop, as if to reinforce the turning of the season, the turning of the earth, the endless spiraling of our galaxy with other galaxies within the vast universe. All is always turning, even when at times like these, the world feels as if it's standing still. Today we celebrate that your beloved Jennifer has made a major turn in her life, one gradual, like the turning fall colors and the leaves departing the trees. Jennifer has been turning in her own spiral, moving through years with increasing awareness of a call to ministry, called as she was working and learning within and alongside your congregations. From within your congregations, Jennifer turned her mind and heart toward a new light, turned with growing awareness and awakening, rising to the necessity of sacrifice, the calls for more companionship with pain and sorrow not her own, the shouts of justice making in a world crying out for more care, more love, more fairness and goodness. All is always turning. By ordaining Jennifer into Unitarian Universalist ministry, you recognize, you honor, you participate in the great turning that guides and sustains Jennifer's life. Jen cannot help but turn toward the ministry, calling her into reverence and awe for this world and the world that we have faith we can build. May you all answer your own unique call. The web is vibrating a message for you as we worship and as we celebrate together today. Please join me now in singing a hymn reminding us to awaken in all ways to the call of a world in need of our care, our love, and our sustained commitment. Number 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Each Sunday morning, we share a centering ritual with Unitarian Universalists around the world, the lighting of a chalice flame along with a brief reflection. Each of you are invited to light a chalice or candle wherever you are calling in from. Please let us know in the chat box that you have lit the flame or show it in your video image. As we light our chalices, I'd like to share these words from the late Reverend Dr. Orlando Brugnola. Flame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now to make you visible in this time. Yet, in truth, you burn always. In the unique worth of every person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope, and in the call to justice. Burn bright before us, burn bright within us. Please join in singing our unison affirmation together.
We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection, as best we know them now, or may learn them in days to come, that we and our children may be fulfilled, and that we may speak to the world in words and actions of peace and goodwill.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Tesney, and it is my honor to serve as the Director for this education for this congregation. And I'd like to welcome guests who are joining us today, and I'd like to especially welcome children who are joining us today, because today is a very special day. And I feel like I say that every single Sunday, but today is very special. Every day is actually ordinary and special, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. But today, our congregation is doing something a little magical, something that we may only do once or twice in our whole existence. We are ordaining a minister. Wait, we're doing what to a minister? What does that word mean, ordain? Well, when I don't know a word, I usually go to the dictionary to find out what it means. And so I went to the dictionary and looked up the word ordain. And when I looked it up, I found that it means to confer holy orders. Don't you love it when the dictionary gives you a definition that doesn't really explain what the word actually means? Well, I looked a little bit more in the dictionary and figured out that to confer holy orders means to give a person who is going to become a priest or a priestess or a rabbi or a holy person, to give them those responsibilities. So it's sort of like giving them a new job description, a new role in life, a new role to play on the stage of life. Well, I looked a little bit deeper at the word ordain, and I found that it comes from the Latin word ordinare, which means to put things in their proper order, to put them in the proper sequence or put them in the proper place. So that is another thing that we're doing today. We are moving something from one place to another. We're changing things around, putting things in a different order. Ordain has the sense of adjusting the order of the world. So when we're ordaining a minister, who has the responsibility for doing this moving around? And in most religious traditions, it is somebody who's a priest or a priestess or a teacher of higher rank that does the ordaining. But in our Unitarian Universalist tradition, it is actually the congregation that has the responsibility for doing the ordaining. It is all gathered here who have both the authority and the responsibility to reorder reality, to place a person in a new role. This isn't all one-sided. The new minister has done a lot of work and a lot of preparation, has sincerely felt called to this new role, and has followed the path towards this moment with dedication and faith. The new minister has transformed herself, has reordered herself so that she can take on this new role. She's changed, just like a caterpillar in the chrysalis changes into a butterfly, completely reorders its body to change. Since she's done this, she can't go back to where she was before. She's like something newly born. While she is a minister at this moment, she can only be a minister, can only take up her role and do her work in relationship with the community. So it is the religious community that says, yes, we see you now, we recognize who you are and what you've become. And because we recognize this, we place you in your proper configuration among us. So we have this new being, the minister, on one side, and we have the community, the congregation, on the other side. And in the space in between, a third being comes. And some people call this being love, the spiritual being that grows in the space of relationships. And it is our magical relationship with this third energy, that energy of love, that actually does the ordaining. Through that relationship, the whole world is reordered and transformed, and everything is in its proper place. At that moment, Jen becomes a minister, and it will only happen one time in her life, only once. So remember we said that this is an ordinary day and a special day? And now you can see that it's ordinary because we are ordering things in the right way. And it's special because this moment is unique in all the world and will never occur again. So blessings to Reverend Jen on taking up her new path, and blessings on our world that has been reordered this day. The children and I will now recess to our children's chapel, and we wish everyone blessings on this special day. Please sing us out.
As you go, rejoice around you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, rejoice around you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
This next selection is very special. Members from both church choirs recorded their voices. I believe there were 22 in all, to come up with a wonderful gift for Reverend Johnson. And I want to thank Steve Zaki and Mark Plukas, because without their efforts, I'm not sure this would have come through. This is My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
My life goes on in endless song, on Robert's lamentation. I hear the rill, the far off hymn, that ends a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
To Wake to Rise. It's a sermon title suggested by Jennifer, and also the title of a Unitarian Universalist meditation manual edited by Reverend Bill Sinkford, the senior minister and soon to be retiring minister at First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. A very complicated city today. Bill was also the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association from 2000 to 2008. He was my boss's boss when I worked there too. He's my dear colleague and friend who from time to time I had the opportunity to companion while visiting international and interfaith partners, especially during one trip to a variety of countries in Africa. And I want to share a few words from the dedication and preface to this book, To Wake and to Rise, that was published in 2017. I think they add some context to the special morning before us today. Here's what Reverend Sinkford had to say in the dedication. And I dedicate this book to Pauline Warfield Lewis, the religious educator at First Unitarian Church in Cincinnati, Ohio, who welcomed me into Unitarian Universalism in 1960. Mrs. Lewis was the only African American at the initial gathering of the Liberal Religious Education Directors Association meeting in 1955. She inspired generations of young people by modeling a commitment to diverse community and to the blessings of pluralism. And in the foreword, Reverend Sinkford shares these words. But the dangers of divisiveness are very real. And the divisiveness seems to be deepening. We have a long pull ahead of us as our faith calls us to resistance. Will we have the stamina to stay the course? Will we also be called to depth? Will we be able to put aside whatever innocence we might have claimed and engage with the real world that some of us are seeing now with fresh eyes? To wake and to rise. But here's the rub. Before you can wake, before you can rise, you have to be asleep. You have to actually sleep. You have to actually be able to sleep. Not an easy state for many in these days, though there are innumerable strategies for trying to do so. Not just the counting of sheep or of flying rainbow unicorns, if you will, not only medication, self-prescribed or prescribed by medical professionals, or living exhaustively in the hope of daily or nightly collapse. Not just reading the Psalms until you fall headlong finally, but in all kinds of other ways, people are struggling to find sleep. Maybe you have a plan that works for you. I tell you, if you want to wake and to rise, first of all, you have to sleep. And I say that knowing that the metaphor of being asleep is much more about privileged ignorance or blindness to what's real and true and happening just outside of every door. Of course, we need to wake. We need to rise from that privileged denial. Dr. King warned Unitarian Universalists more than 50 years ago, very specifically, to not sleep through the revolution. And in all frankness, too often we failed to heed that message. Literally. Revolutions inevitably fail unless their leaders and followers find rest. So ironically, this sermon about waking and rising is also about sleeping. Sometime in 2008, about a year after another minister in this room had hired me to work for the UUA, I found myself in the airport in Newark, a not unusual circumstance in those days and in the years that followed. And who is suddenly coming down the escalator on one side as I rise up on the other? My favorite US president in those pre-Obama days, yes, of course, none other than Martin Sheen. And in these pre-election weeks this year, 13 years later, I've discovered, like so many others, that the sleeping part of waking and rising actually benefits from the pleasure of fiction. An episode or 2 or 3 of The West Wing, which starred Martin Sheen as the president, some find, including me, offers an appealing enough vision of how things might be to allow dreamland to come once again. And dreamland, once again, is something we all need. Not only before we wake and we rise, but after we have to rest once again. The precious Pentecost promise from the Acts of the Apostles comes to mind. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your children will prophesy, and your young ones will see visions, and your elders will dream dreams. Give yourself sleep for these dreams. Interestingly, one of the recurring themes on the West Wing, when the president needed someone to take a major risk, to change their life, to take on an awesome responsibility that was not guaranteed to go well, was with an off-the-cuff request. He or someone else would say, I need you to jump off a cliff. Well, the star of today's episode knows something about a call like that. Pursuing a calling when everything is really going just fine before you do. Following it anyway, it's a little bit like jumping off a cliff. It's frightening. Your safety isn't guaranteed. You have to leave behind familiarity and comfort for the sake of something not yet quite known. And in most authentic cases, you do it because you respect the source of the call, not because you trust your own competency. That may sound strange, but I and many of us have learned that it's actually pretty fair, because our own competency rarely proves sufficient in the days that follow. And so this is a kind of waking that really happens for everyone. It reminds me a little bit of that old parachute joke that I think I first came across in, of all places, a Church of the Larger Fellowship message from my minister there at the time, Reverend Jane Rzepka, or this may have been while she was serving the church in Reading, Massachusetts. I think this originally appeared in the New Yorker, and some of you know this well and will be ready for the punchline. Quote, important notice. If you are one of the hundreds of parachuting enthusiasts who bought our Easy Sky Diving book, please make the following correction on page 8, line 7. The words state zip code should have read Pull, rip, cord. Yes, your imagination, like mine, probably fills with caricatures of unfortunate rookie skydivers all geared up and screaming out 02048, 11779, 52601 as they plummet through the air. We trust that the instructions provided to new ministers are somewhat better, though in all honesty, Jen, most of us search for and find the ripcord in the midst of the work and the life of ministry. Yes, most of us are just like everyone else, regardless of vocation. We learn while we're falling. And much of the time, that's a wake-up call from a kind of sleep, whether restful or fitful, from a time of dreaming. And it can strike anywhere. Perhaps while surrounded by trees, your beloved woods, Jen. Even in a familiar wooded backyard or a grove. A poem by William Virgil Davis serves well to illustrate. He wrote, "The leaves have almost completely covered the backyard, and there are leaves to fall. The wind whistles through its thin teeth, and no one seems to mind. For weeks, we have watched from windows, seen colors changing, but not talked about it. One night, when we went to gather another load of wood, we heard the dead leaves crunch beneath our feet. Now, a light snow has begun to touch the trees in the wood pile, first fingerprinting them, then blurring, blending everything in. Someday, I may get around to saying what I've been thinking for months. Jen, you know the woods, the seasons of its souls, how they mirror ours, the drought and other catastrophes they face, and the refulgence, seems like an appropriate word for an ordination, the budding out, the falling, the fallenness of the carpet. You know this, and sometimes the people do too. But we ever need to waken to it. Wake people from their sleep like the wind, like leaves in snow, to become themselves so they can see and say what needs to be said, to do what needs to be done. Help them awaken, even from their lowest. And then help them arise. Remind them with William Sloane Coffin that most church boats don't like to be rocked. They prefer to lie at anchor rather than go places in stormy seas. But that's because we view the church as the object of our love instead of the subject, the instrument of God's love. Or, to put it another way, according to my wife, a ship is meant to be sailed. The harbor is merely a temporary place. She's right. After you wake, you rise, or it doesn't matter. You rise and you put away the West Wing reruns and tell everybody else to do the same. Put away the fiction, take up the banner, do the critical analysis. For everything, there's a time and a place, and we'll all need to sleep, we'll all need to dream again, but now, as you know, it's time to rise. Get the vote out, you, that vote, If you're letter writing, 20 more letters each, people, please. One more week till the big send. Let's all do 20 more. Do it for the ones that are still asleep, that need to wake, that need to rise, or do it for yourself as you are rising. This week I've been thinking and wondering if Jen knows how she's woken and risen others over the years. I say that because I respect how Jen is in this work for the long haul and has been here at FUSF, and how sometimes it's been slow and hard, maybe even frustratingly so. Well, hold on to that steadfastness, Jen. It's going to hold you steady in years to come as well. And feel the turning. Finally, a real racial justice initiative launched here. 20 of us enrolled in beloved conversations with the Foz Center at Meadville Lombard, amongst some 1,200 Unitarian Universalists across the country. Amen. You know, we're late getting to it. UUism hit the snooze button, just like Franklin, for far too long. Maybe we were too drowsy to awaken. Maybe we weren't getting good enough sleep or dreaming enough dreams, whatever. But it's not too late to rise. And rise we shall. All of you are having experiences like this. I was at a training for election protection this past Tuesday, one more online Zoom meeting, and there were 11,000 people at this training. Someone's waking up. Someone is rising. It's enough to get a person to rise and show up in places where they didn't used to. It's enough to get a person to act with a bit less patience in conventional circumstances where they might have been patient before. Jen and everyone, take the people out of the harbor. Put unexpected people at the helm. Be with them, care for them as they steer, minister to them if they fall. Let them rest, even sleep every day. Remind them where the ripcord is and how to turn their focus to it when useless cultural lessons have taught them to look in unreliable places. Jen, you are on the cutting edge of a new reality of ministry. You and all your peers were asking you to jump off a cliff. We know that you did. We're with you as we go. May it be a blessing. Amen.
Hello, I'm Meg Riley, and I'm so excited to be here today. You know, it's both a really particular celebration of a particular and wonderful ministry, Jennifer Johnson. It's also a celebration of who this movement is. As we heard earlier, it's the people who ordain a Unitarian Universalist. Without the congregations, none of us would be ordained. So we're both celebrating the particular and the Church Universal. And Jen today has asked for the offering to go to two really important places that lift up the widest circle. One is a very traditional place, the Church of the Living Tradition. And that is, that fund goes to support all of the folks in need. And I don't need to tell you, in this time, many, many people, including religious professionals, are in need. It's a hard time. And I want to say, if it's a hard time for you, I hope you will never feel pressured to give what you don't have. Take care of yourself, you must. And for those of us who have enough, It's really time to look around and see those who don't. And so supporting the Living Tradition Fund will support folks in need, whether they're retired, whether they've lost work, whether their families are in trouble because of COVID, whatever it is, this fund can help religious professionals. That's where half of the money will go. The other half is to a particular congregation that is in Jen's heart and Jen's ministry right now, Worthy Now. Did you know that there are about 1,500 Unitarian Universalists who are currently incarcerated, who are drawing great strength from this ministry, Worthy Now? This ministry that affirms that, yes, we don't affirm every action that people take, but we affirm people's essential humanity. Some of these folks tell us no one has ever done that in their entire life. And over, people write to Worthy Now and say, this ministry saved my life, literally. It's an inspiring ministry. It's also right now Jen's ministry. It's where she is serving this year with the Church of the Larger Fellowship, where I had a privilege to work with her and the couple of the other learning fellows I see here, Margalit Belazer and Antonia Bel Delgado. And it's a wonderful place to serve the widest vision of our movement and who we might be. Sometimes we're told that Unitarian Universalism is only for the privileged. And this ministry puts an absolute lie to it because it grows and grows and grows without any advertisement or evangelization. Folks tell their cellmates, they tell the people that they see in lines, and it continues to grow. And serving them, as you might guess, you know, in a lot of states, it's illegal to make any money at all when you're incarcerated, even if you're forced to work. And in some of them, one person who was incarcerated sent us his month's paycheck, $14. As we know from the movie The 13th, slavery is still legal for the incarcerated. So I encourage you to think about what you have, the freedoms that you have. We all feel a little confined because of COVID from things we can't do. But I'll tell you, we still have so much freedom. And these are folks who are living in cruel, random, authoritarian settings, and Unitarian Universalism whispers to them that there is another way, just the way Eric talked about West Wing whispering to him. But they know that we are real and that our love for them is real. And our donations to this show the reality. So I encourage you now to give to both of these very important causes. And congratulations, Jennifer.
Good morning. In this striking setting, we get to claim this powerful minister as our own. I am the Reverend Janet Newton, and I serve as the minister at First Parish in Berlin, just north of here. And I get to share a little bit about the meaning of ordination, the meaning of this ordination, I think also ordination in these times. And for this honor, I am grateful. This is both absolutely where this act should take place and a decidedly imperfect set of conditions for this event, just as it should be. For the sake of all here, the honoring of these congregations and this minister called from among them, we would wish it were not so. You deserve better. But we are a symbolic people, we humans, and there's a lesson to be drawn from the beauty of the imperfection that we find here today. Because, let's be honest, things weren't perfect in the profession of ministry, in the landscape of church in America, in the evidence throughout history of just how often and completely we have collectively betrayed our highest ideals leading up to this point. What is imperfection here, if not a reminder that the ideals of faith in America never have been yet? And yet, we do go on. We do lift up. We co-create this calling and this care and this naming through ordination, through orientation toward the sacred and toward God and toward that which we hold out as the aspiration worthy of our meaning making. Ordination by a congregation is an expression of faith, that we are doing something here through our faith. And we recognize that this person, Jennifer Johnson, through how she lives and reflects and leads, helps us to understand our own efforts, helps us to see the highest ideals that we long for, helps us to take the actions needed to make our faith more manifest in the world. So this is a seed. It carries within it everything that it needs to have to grow. The blueprints for the kind of plant it will become, the embryo of its existence, the evolutionary memory that uses its instinctive awareness to find gravitational forces to figure out that shoots go down and roots go up. It has everything that it needs and a hole in its coat that lets in the rain. There is perfection in it, but it rarely gets to practice its perfection in absolutely ideal conditions. We can conclude then that part of its perfection is its ability to grow and thrive and sustain in spite of the conditions. Ordination, at its essence, is a planting and a nurturing of that seed. And because of that, it is an act of co-creation with and through imperfection, with and through the sacred. Like the seed, we carry those blueprints. We carry the sucker, the thirst for something more. We pass these along through our institutional memory and through our churches, and we see the embryonic qualities of ministry in some among us, and we help to orient them. Shoots go down, roots go down, shoots go up, and we give them conditions in which to grow. Today, as you ordain this remarkable woman into ministry, you honor the seed that was created on a tree with a trunk made sturdy with Unitarianism and Universalism, branches of the churches in Franklin and Chelmsford and the Church of the Larger Fellowship, roots dug down into Judaism and secularism and a thirst for meaning. So while we gather here aware that all is not right about this event, let this be a lesson in ministry for you, Jen, and your ministries in Franklin and Chelmsford, and all the ministries to our world represented here. It is the worst possible time to be doing this, and so it is the best possible time to be planting seeds and helping them to grow. May you, may we be blessed by this act of co-creation. May the seeds of your ministry and liberal faith in general be scattered widely past this grove onto ground transformed by our care and admiration and love and gratitude, and made sacred by your ministry to come.
Jennifer, this day has been long in coming. 5 years of academic study, theological contemplation, spiritual practice, and service to our congregations have prepared you for today and provisioned you for the path ahead. You have completed the requirements for ministerial fellowship in the Unitarian Universalist Association and received the recommendation of the Ministerial Fellowship Committee.
Today we have gathered in the spirit of the Free Church to carry out one of the most cherished rites of our tradition, to ordain one of us, Jennifer Beth Johnson, to the ministry of Unitarian Universalism. Are you now ready and willing to accept the mantle of ordained ministry, mindful of both the privileges and the responsibilities it brings?
I am.
As the congregation where Jennifer discovered her call to serve in the ministry of our tradition, I'm so happy for you, I'm gonna cry. The members of First Universalist Society in Franklin have voted unanimously to ordain Jennifer Beth Johnson.
As the teaching church that supported Jennifer in her formation, helping her to grow in service and leadership, the members of First Parish of Chelmsford have joined in voting to ordain Jennifer. We are grateful to have been a part of Jennifer's journey.
Will the members of both congregations now rise as you are able in body and spirit? On behalf of the full membership of both congregations, please join us in speaking the words of ordination printed in your order of service. We, the members of First Universalist Society in Franklin, do hereby ordain you, Jennifer Beth Johnson, to the Unitarian Universalist ministry. We affirm your call and the gifts you bring to the ministry of our shared faith. We charge you to embark on a transformative ministry rooted in love, integrity, and joy. We challenge you to bear healing witness to the world's brokenness and beauty, to celebrate the mystery and wonder of the interdependent web of existence, and to give life the shape of justice in word and deed. May you continue to grow as you live out this call for the rest of your days.
With reverence and gratitude, I joyfully accept the ministry to which you have ordained me. I commit myself to minister faithfully in the service of a world transformed by love, inclusion, and justice. Like those who came before me, I know that I do not and cannot minister alone, for all ministry is shared ministry. I take up the ministry in the spirit of collaboration, ever mindful of the community of ancestors, companions, congregants, and colleagues that make it possible.
We invite all present now to rise in body or spirit to join in the affirmation of this ordination.
We celebrate you now as a Unitarian Universalist minister and affirm your ordination as the Reverend Jennifer Beth Johnson. May your ministry be a beacon of light and a balm of healing in the world.
This is amazing. amazing. Thank you so much.
And it's
Wow.
reversible. Go to the other side. And there's a pocket.
Oh, perfect. For the tissues I forgot to bring with me, of course.
And the bluebird. Did you see the bluebird?
I saw the bluebird and the trees, and I am just overcome with this moment and also with the stunning beauty. I have so craved beauty in these days, and to have this gift of beauty co-created here and here is just a tremendous blessing and fills me with hope and courage for this ministry.
Reverend Cherry just asked me to thank some people, aside from Jen, of course. Starting with Susan Pratt Sheridan, who is a member of our church, who loaned us the image here, which was very nice. Rachel Pluk is like a little elf. We didn't even know this was going to happen. We had talked about a couple of arrangements, and we came out this morning to this amazing scene. Rachel got her horticulture degree from Aggie, so you could tell it shows. Janet Halterman and Peg Kellogg in record time jumped to making the stole. We talked about, Janet talked to us about how trees move her and stuff, and so I like the idea that the image was of her as the tree, and she said she liked bluebirds, and Louise confirmed it. So, and I didn't know they were going to do the bonus other side with a pocket. Don't be jealous if you don't have any pockets, Reverend Cherry. Sorry. Well, I'm sure Janet made his stole too for his time. And then Laura, I'd like to thank you as our co-chairs, and it was very nice to focus on something else in the news. So and thank you, Chris, and thank you, Doug, as always, my right-hand man. Is that everybody?
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Kennedy from your Board of Trustees at FUSIP. And this is a very special, special day, as Diana has told us. This is an additional gift that we would like to present to Jennifer from FUSIP, depicting woodland scenes that we know she loves. From all of us to you, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
In addition to the lovely painting presented by Rebecca, Jen's family and friends from the FUSF community have ordered a print of the beautiful painting on the order of service painted by Sue Sheridan, to serve as a reminder of this great accomplishment and of how extremely proud we are of Reverend Jen. Thanks so much to Sue and Elizabeth for making that happen.
Thank you so much. I'm wordless. It doesn't happen too often, but I am. So beautiful.
I am Reverend Ellen Spiro, and I have two deep honors. One is to serve as the minister of First Parish in Chelmsford, and the other was to be the surprise supervisor for Jennifer's internship. And Jennifer, we miss you so much this year and the gifts that you brought us. So Jennifer asked me to offer the charge to the minister, which is a tradition when we ordain a colleague, when a congregation ordains a colleague from outside the congregation, offers a charge on behalf of our faith. Dear Jennifer, here we are again where we left off in June, masked and socially distanced, but in each other's company. And I was so grateful to share in the ministry with you during your internship at First Parish in Chelmsford. I experienced firsthand the joyful, curious, and heartfelt spirit of your call to ministry. You bring a depth of spiritual experience, real life experience, compassion and passion for the world and for our faith. You will be a blessing to the congregation who calls you and to our larger Unitarian Universalist faith. And so now that you are ordained the Reverend Jennifer Johnson, I charge you with the following. Remember, ordained ministry is a sacred trust. It may begin as a call we feel from a still small voice within ourselves and or from God or a larger source outside of us, but it must be witnessed and affirmed by the communities of faith we serve. We are entrusted to walk with individuals, congregations, and communities to hold sacred their stories, their sacred stories within the larger sacred stories of our tradition and our deepest hope. I charge you to hold the people and their stories with integrity, compassion, and honesty, to recognize that you are not here to fix them, but as Janet said, to accompany them, to discern their own path toward healing and wholeness. I charge you to remember that no matter what, you are the minister and have to hold that sacred trust even when people want you to be something else, a therapist, an adversary, a friend, a hero. I charge you to take care. Take care of yourself and your family. Dave, Carly, Amelia, Kate, Louise. You have a sacred trust to uphold with them that was there before any of this ministry stuff. And they will be there for you after as well. And finally, I would share with you probably something I said to you 100 times last year, but the wisest piece of advice I received from a mentor, the Reverend Dr. Bob Whitten, an American Baptist minister I knew in Virginia. He told me at my ordination 20 years ago, always remember that those who would criticize you, if they knew the whole story, would not. And those who would praise you, if they knew the whole story, would not. I charge you to remember this, that in the face of criticism, to stay grounded in the clarity and truth of your call to ministry, and in the face of praise, to stay grounded in the humility of its service. Welcome.
So glad to be a part of today, of this amazing day for you, dear friend. As we prepare to pray, I am asking that David and Carly join Jennifer and Amelia, and if you could lay hands on Jennifer. And for the rest of us, if you would put your right hand on your heart and reach with your left hand towards the camera so that should Jen choose to see gallery view, she can see all of you sending blessings her way. Spirit of life and love, spirit of deep knowing, that which shows up in the life-changing moments of our lives. You are here with us today as we publicly acknowledge this minister, my friend, Reverend Jennifer Beth Johnson. We have on so many occasions bear witness to her ministry, to the loving and gentle manner she holds sacred space with one and with many. Something so much needed in a world more and more in need of care. We give thanks to our religious tradition, Unitarian Universalism, which makes room for conscientious ministers like you, Jennifer, to show up authentically. Gracious Spirit, we ask that Jennifer's ministry be blessed, that David, Amelia, and Carly be blessed, that all those she calls kin be blessed, as well as her dear friends. Blessing on all of us present here. Blessings to our colleagues. For ministry is not done alone. It is done in community. And our beloved Reverend Jen will need all of us as she takes on the role of traveling alongside others on their spiritual journeys. May you, Jennifer, always remember to trust yourself, to trust your heart. And should you forget to do so, to call on those of us who know you best to remind you of the powerful minister that you are. Reverend Jennifer, you already know how to do this important thing with compassion, integrity, and humility. I bless you with the memory of remembrance. May your ministry be fruitful. May it challenge you and sustain you. May it bring you joy in all the ways that joy best reveals itself to you. And may you always feel the energy of those of us who love you all around you. May it be so.
Through this act of ordination, Jen, you have become part of a continuum of Unitarian and Universalist ministers stretching back over 200 years, a great cloud of witnesses who have paved the way and provided a grounding for all the ways in which we are doing ministry today. The founders of our faith, like John Murray, Hosea Ballou, and William Ellery Channing. The theologians like James Freeman Clark and James Luther Adams. The trailblazers like Olympia Brown and Mary Safford. The prophets and seekers of justice like Theodore Parker, Joseph Tuckerman, John Haynes Holmes, Jack Mendelson, and James Reed. The transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and two of the women who were denied ordained ministry, Margaret Fuller and Elizabeth Peabody. The religious educators like Clarence Skinner and Sophia Lyon Fawes. The architects of the merger of the Unitarians and Universalists, Dana Greeley and Phil Giles, and all those recently departed who were such good friends and colleagues. Thomas Michelson, Elizabeth Tarbox, Robbie Walsh, Fred Gillis, Bob Thayer, David Johnson, Judy Wells, and the list goes on and on. It is with the memory of all those who have gone before, who have inspired, agitated, and brought words of comfort and healing during the dark times, that I now welcome you into the Unitarian Universalist ministry, the Reverend Jennifer Johnson. It is you and your peers who are now entrusted with the future of this beloved faith of ours. I trust, Jen, that with your extraordinary gifts and vision, that you will take part in bringing more light into this time which poses such challenges, such danger. May God and all that is most holy bless your ministry now and always, Jen. Amen.
Amen indeed. And let's join our hearts and minds together now from the various places that we gather for our closing hymn. It's Why Ya Ya. The words and lyrics will appear on your screen. Let's join together now, lifting our voices.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we'll know we're there. We will get there, heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we'll know we're there. We will get there, heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we
We will get there, friends. We will get there together. We will get there by waking to the truth of history and the present in all its brokenness and beauty, in all its pain and promise. We will get there by waking to the call of our own hearts and our shared faith, the call to radical love, inclusion, and healing. We will get there by rising to the full potential of our faith's principles and our collective gifts, gifts of compassion and creativity, beauty and ingenuity, joy, and most of all, courage. We will get there by rising to the possibility of a new day and a world remade in the image of love. We do not know quite what that world will look like, feel like. We do not know just when we'll get there, but we will get there, and we will know we're there. May it be so. Amen. And now, as is the tradition of First Universalist Society in Franklin, let us join our voices in our farewell song.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Good morning. I'm Sue Sheridan, member of the Board of Trustees. And thank you all for such a wonderful, beautiful service. And congratulations and best wishes, of course, to Reverend Jen. There were a lot of folks involved in today's service, so I want to formally acknowledge and thank them. The worship associate today was Kathleen Ackerman, Time for All Ages, Diana Tesney. The Zoom manager was Russ Goyette. Ordination Committee, Laura Carrier and Elizabeth Randall. The Grove Floral Display, Rachel Plukas. Technical Engineer, Mark Plukas. Slide Manager and Music Director, Michelle Kelly. First Parish, UU in Chelmsford, Music Director, Steve Zocchi. Bassoon Solo, Carly Johnson Pellegri. Chalice Lighting, Amelia Johnson Pellegri. Calling to Worship, Reverend Rita Capizzi. Homilist, Reverend Eric Cherry. Call for the Offering, Reverend Meg Riley. Meaning of Ordination, Reverend Janet Newton. Act of Ordination, Rebecca Kennedy, President, FUSF, and Gail Barati, Chair, First Parish, UU in Chelmsford. Charge to Minister, Reverend Ellen Spiro. Prayer of Ordination, Reverend Margalie Belazaire. Right Hand of Fellowship, Reverend Carol Rosine. Intern Committee Chair, Jane Boissonneau. Cover Art, Susan Pratt Sheridan. Stole Creators, Janet Halterman. Peg Kellogg. Photographer, Doug Randall. Thank you to you all. I want to remind you that the service next week will be with Sarah Atamian, our very own ministry intern, The Healing Breath. Please join us next week at 10 o'clock